Joining me, Jack Burkman, Republican strategist and host of Behind the Curtain with Jack Burkman. Catch him every Saturday night on the Radio America Network and Sunday afternoons at 2 on WMAL in Metro D.C. Also, Richard Fowler, Democratic strategist and host of the nationally syndicated Richard Fowler Show. Download his podcast at fowlershow.com. 1 week after the first Republican presidential debate, Donald Trump is still surging in the polls.
And by the way, they said I won the debate. Is that nice? Is that nice? Right? The polls came out and said I won. And boy, did I have nasty questions. I stood up there and said, I don't believe this. Some of those questions.
The latest numbers show that Donald is leading the competition in Iowa with 22% of Republican voters supporting him. A breakdown of the survey puts Trump ahead on the economy, illegal immigration, and terrorism. Jack, last week you said you were close to endorsing him. Are you ready to stump for Trump?
Oh, not quite yet. I didn't like some of his comments about Planned Parenthood this week, support for Planned Parenthood. I do have concerns about the extent to which he's a real conservative. I may yet endorse Trump, Morris. I said I wouldn't endorse anyone to the convention. We'll have to see. We'll have to see my evolution on that. I remain very enthusiastic about Trump. I think he's a clear front runner. I think what I saw from the debate and what I continue to see is he's the only Republican with the ability to lead. He's the only one with charisma. He's the only one that people will follow. He's a very, very strong front runner right now.
I agree, and Donald Trump has sailed through two controversies, one on illegal immigration, the other with Fox News anchor Megyn Kelly. Richard, are you surprised at how well Trump is doing? Is this a bad thing for Hillary Clinton? Trump is seen as the anti-establishment, and voters seem to like that.
Well, I'm not surprised that Trump has sort of had this, I guess, meteoric rise, and here's why. I think we've seen this over and over again. I've said this a number of times. What the American people are looking for is a candidate that can be real with them, can take off the gloves, can go beyond the teleprompter, can tell them how good or how bad it's going to be. And Trump has demonstrated that quite clearly in his presentation. He has not used a teleprompter, no prepared remarks. He's answered questions off the cuff, and it's worked very well for him in the GOP debate.
So is Bernie Sanders, Richard.
No, I agree. I think
that's
why, and that is the same reason why Bernie's having his sort of meteoric rise on the Democratic side. Now, I think what the Clinton campaign is going to do and what they have to do is they've really got to start having a conversation with voters. But remember, just a couple months ago, Morris, we were on the same set when Jack said that it's going to be a coronation of Hillary Clinton, and clearly this is no coronation.
You endorse Hillary?
Well, of course, are you endorsing Hillary?
I think Hillary's a good candidate.
Have you endorsed her? Have you endorsed her for 16?
She's a formidable candidate.
Uh-oh, no endorsement.
Meanwhile, another Republican presidential candidate is making news by bringing up the war in Iraq. Jeb Bush blames President Obama and Hillary Clinton for the fall of Iraq and the creation of ISIS.
In 2008, the surge was successful. Al-Qaeda in Iraq was wiped out, as confirmed by the President of the United States, Barack Obama. He has stated this. And fragile but secure Iraq existed in 2008. The President had teed up an agreement that, had he signed it and maintained a force level of 8,000 to 10,000 troops, which was the designed troop level, ISIS wouldn't have been formed.
But one day after those comments, he changed his tone when asked by a reporter.
Had we not invaded Iraq in the first place, we wouldn't be dealing with this ISIS problem?
Look, who knows? I mean, that's just such a complicated hypothetical. Who knows? I can't answer that. I'll tell you, though, that taking out Saddam Hussein turned out to be a pretty good deal.
Well, we broke it and we bought it. Many analysts have said that taking out Saddam wasn't a good deal and that his removal created all of the current turmoil. Jack, this sounds more like a PR campaign for his brother's legacy than Jeb leading his own campaign. What do you think?
He's really created terrible confusion about this Iraq issue. He's given 4 different answers. Bush should really, the answer is very simple, Morris. He should have said, yes, I supported what my brother did. I supported the Iraq war. Everything didn't quite work out. The reason we have ISIS is Obama pulled out of Iraq too soon. Now, leaving aside the substance of foreign policy, politically, that's what he should have said. It was a very simple answer. For some reason, he's given 4 different answers. I don't think anybody knows where he stands on the Iraq war.
I'll tell you why he did it, though. I'll tell you why he did it, Morris. It is because this is one of those candidates that I talked about before that is poll tested to high hell. Because he knows that the American people were adamantly now, hindsight's always 20/20. The American people are against foreign wars. They were against the war in Iraq after they saw how horrible it was. was after the Dover Air Force
Well,
Base
but the
test, when
Republican
they
base
saw
supported
more
it
and
big
more of
time
our
in
men
04.
coming back in body bags instead of walking, right? And so here's the truth. The truth is that he has to defend both his brother's legacy and his father's legacy while also trying to cast himself as a new candidate, and doing all three of those things at the same time is pretty much
true,
impossible.
Richard. That's true, but this issue isn't too terribly complicated. There's nowhere to go.
You're right. It's not complicated. George Bush invaded Iraq. Thanks to his invasion of Iraq, he destabilized the region. That destabilization of the region is what gave us ISIS.
We can debate. I support the war. You don't. We don't want to debate foreign policy. What I'm saying here is politically.
Give me one good outcome from the Iraqi war.
Oh, the Iraq war. We have talk radio in Baghdad. The Germans, the French, and the British are buying condos in Baghdad.
Meanwhile, America, we have ISIS and lone wolf terrorists
for the first time in 5,000 years, you have freedom and democracy on the banks of the Euphrates.
But you have ISIS they've declared a state in Iraq thanks to the destabilization of the region.
Look, if Jeb wants to set himself apart, Jeb Bush ought to change his last name. All right, let's move on to the Democrats. After saying she wouldn't turn over her email server to the Justice Department, Hillary Clinton has changed her mind. The server surrenders, drawing reaction from the Benghazi committee chairman.
About damn time was my initial reaction. I can't help but smile at the notion that somebody is voluntarily turning something over to the FBI. They generally don't ask. They generally tell you to do so.
All right, now reports indicate there were at least 2 top-secret emails on that server, and the Clinton staffers tried to get rid of some of the evidence. Richard, this story isn't going away, and it goes back to the Hillary trust issue.
Listen, there's no question that Hillary has really high negatives, and she's going to have to do everything in her campaign, everything to sort of reverse that, right? But this is one of these things where I think what Republicans have tried to do is they've tried to make this logic where there's smoke, there's fire. But there's no smoke here, and there's no fire. A lot of former secretaries of state, including Colin Powell, used private emails, right, when they were Secretary of State, right? And what Hillary Clinton has said in her defense the whole time, mind you, I think she should be more forthcoming with
that's
it.
True.
Mind you, I feel as though
Richard, that's true, but as usual, you tell half the story. Yes, they did, but they were not incredibly.
So now
that's
secretive. That's the point. There is the double standard.
Incredibly secretive.
There is the double standard because it's Hillary Clinton. The Republican parties and people like Jack have no problem with Colin Powell doing it, but when Hillary Clinton does it, it becomes a huge problem.
Colin Powell's not running for president. You can be sure that whoever's running for president, they'll find this dirt on. The email controversy has affected Hillary's poll numbers. Now Bernie Sanders is getting a boost along with Joe Biden, and he's not even running yet. Jack, you've been saying all along that Joe would jump in. Any more predictions?
Oh, yeah, I think he is. I think Joe Biden's in. Joe's an ambitious guy that's been thinking about running for president since the day he got elected in 1970. A lot of people forget he ran in 1988, might have done well, might have been the Democratic nominee, except for the fact that he was caught in a major plagiarism scandal. That's the only reason Dukakis ever got started that year. I think Biden, the Democrats including, you saw Richard's hesitation to endorse Hillary. He's evidence of a lot of Democrats.
Stop it, Jack.
Well, it's true. I think Democrats are looking for a candidate.
And so does the
Sanders
party.
is a joke. O'Malley's a dud. This guy, Howard Schultz, is unknown. I think the only way to go is Joe Biden. I think shortly after Labor Day,
all right, well, Richard, if Biden does get in the race, polls show Clinton would take a hit. So what's your take on this?
Here's the thing. Let's look at, first of all, I think it's really early to be assessing polls right now, right? We are almost 6 or 7, maybe 8 months out from the Iowa caucus.
You didn't say that 6 months ago.
We're 8 months out from the Iowa caucus, more than 11 months out from the conventions. But with that being said, if you look at the head-to-head matchups with Hillary Clinton or even Bernie Sanders and any of the Republican candidates, Hillary Clinton is steadily beating all of them. Bernie Sanders is steadily beating all of them because the American people are looking for candidates that understand how we get working families back on track, how we get the middle class back on track. And Republicans have not come up with an answer because they're spending more time dealing with Donald Trump.
She is, because she's been on the national scene for 30 years. I should hope she is with the name ID she has. That will change rapidly.
Well, Jeb Bush has been on the national scene for 30
begin.
years, and he's not beating her in the polls.
Well, you can be sure that the President Obama, don't you think that he might be behind some of this FBI investigation of the Hillary servers? I mean, he's not endorsing anybody.
Well, no, most presidents don't, Morris.
I think
Biden is his guy.
Would love to see Hillary Clinton fall flat on her face. I think
come on, Jack. You know as well as
so.
I do, it is courtesy for the sitting President of the United States not to endorse the primary.
Courtesy, but sitting back waiting for Jumpin' Joe to jump in. The one issue plaguing both parties has been the Black Lives Matter movement. Both Bernie Sanders and Jeb Bush have been interrupted by protesters. The candidates don't seem to be handling the issue very well. Richard, why are Democrats and Republicans having such a hard time with this movement?
Here's the reason why they're having a hard time with this movement, Morris, and it's because, first, I think every candidate, whether you're a Democrat, this is not a partisan issue. Black Lives Mattering is not a partisan issue, right? And we saw Martin O'Malley had the same problem at a recent Progressive Congress conference at Netroots.
That's true.
And the problem is that when you say all lives matter, we know Black Lives Matter. I think what the protesters are saying, what the activists are saying is whether a Black Lives Matter is in question, right? Because you see the Sandra Bland case, you see the Walter Scott case, you see the Eric Garner case.
What you're seeing,
over
Morris,
and
is the
over
Democratic
again, you
Party.
see these cases in which police officers have taken the power of judge and jury into their own hands and have killed unarmed African Americans.
What you're seeing over and over again is the Democrats are tripping up in their own rhetoric about affirmative action.
It has nothing to do with affirmative action. This has everything to do with racist police officers.
The extent to which, for political purposes, they are trying to racially polarize the country.
What are you talking about?
Is absurd.
How can you say that when Dylann Roof walks into a church and kills 9 people with a KKK flag that is also hanging over the state capitol of South Carolina,
Richard,
how could you say that it's just a Democratic policy we are using affirmative action to cause it?
And from that,
the facts don't even match up, Jack.
Do you infer that there are mass race wars in the country?
No, what I infer is that race relations are at an all-time low, number one.
Oh, Richard, that's ridiculous. You have an African-American president.
You have racial profiling, stop and frisk laws, and laws that perpetuate the continuation of unarmed black men being killed at the hands of police.
All right, so what? We've had an African-American president for the past 8 years.
Richard, how can you say that race relations are at an all-time low? You're African-American president.
That's what the Gallup poll is saying. I'm not making this up.
Half the police force in the city of Baltimore is black. The mayor of Baltimore is black. The district attorney is black. And you say race relations are at an all-time low.
You're trying to make this a black and white issue when it really isn't. What we have here is communities of color being degraded, whether it be by policies passed, whether it be policies passed by Ronald Reagan, like mandatory minimums, whether it be the fact that we are incarcerating people for 20 and 30 years.
Well, this is a whole other show. Let's move on.
And on about this.
At least 2 women think Donald Trump could be good for this cause, saying he gives hope to black lives. It's the same duo that came to Trump's defense after his tussle with Megyn Kelly and this viral video.
Maybe it's time for us to file Kelly and make her go back to reporting news at the local news. Try Sesame Street. Maybe you should go back and report news for Sesame Street, a debate with them. You don't need to host another debate. No. You don't come for Donald like that. He ain't done nothing to you. Y'all always bringing up his past. He don't do nothing to nobody unless you try to do something to him.
They like Trump. Jack, will you be as fiery when supporting your party's nominee, Trump, or whatever?
Oh, I think Trump is going to have good base support. I think the base loves Trump. You know, this argument that somehow Richard and others have been making this argument that Trump only appeals to bigots and xenophobes within the Republican Party. When you reach 30% in the polls, when you reach even 20% in the polls, you are reaching a broad cross section of the electorate.
These same 2 women came out. They've just come out with another video that's really supportive of Trump, and they think that Trump can help the Black Lives Matter movement. Richard, what do you think about that?
I disagree with that. Trump is on the record as saying the way we solve it, the way we deal with this is by giving the police more power, and that's definitely not the answer. I think every candidate, all 19 or 20 or 25 Republicans that are running, the 3 Democratic candidates, they should all have a Black Lives Matter agenda.
It's not 1965, Richard.
That includes listen, we don't know the difference because they're still lynching African Americans.
All right, let's just keep those women on our side, whether we like them or not. They've come out in favor of Trump, Richard. Take a look at that. Jack Burkman, Republican strategist, Richard Fowler, Democratic strategist, the best political panel on TV. Thanks to you both.
Thank you, Morris. Thank you, Richard.
Thanks, Morris. Thanks, Jack.